story of women in armed forces is no longer about entry. It is about leadership. Our next session, Shakti in Uniform, Women Breaking Barriers, celebrates the journey of women who have challenged the conventions, who have commanded respect and shown that courage has no gender. We are honored to have with us Vice Admiral Arti Sarin, Director General of Armed Forces Medical Services, and Col Anshu Jamwal, Commanding Officer, Indian Army. And steering this session is my colleague Padma Joshi. Can we have a big round of applause for these incredible ladies?
Thank you very much for joining us here, Vice Admiral Arti Sarin, DG of the Armed Forces Medical Services and Commanding Officer in the Indian Army, Col Anshu Jamwal. Can we have a huge round of applause for both the officers? And as something that Vice Admiral Sarin pointed out, they are also a picture of the leaps and bounds that we've seen in our armed forces, a generational change and a generational progress that has happened. So, ma'am, I don't want to start with the challenges. I want to start by asking you, what are the changes that you personally have seen in the last 4 decades?
Thank you, Padmaja. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Jai Hind. Your question and your statement is very right. We represent 2 different generations. I'm from the Armed Forces Medical Services, which began as early as 1953. So we have had women and women leaders. The first Lady General, the first 2-star was in 1987, who commanded Command Hospital, Lucknow, followed by 2 3-stars in 2007. So they paved the path for us. And then there was even further progress because they were given opportunities. There was further progress. Women started joining NDA over the years. They started getting a permanent commission. And now they have a whole lot of representation, their whole new roles, leadership roles. As you can see, she's commanding a unit. I'm extremely proud of her, this young lady here. So she represents the next generation who are the non-medical, officers who have joined the armed forces.
Have you seen any kind of resistance ever? Because we talk a lot about mindsets, that the Indian mindset, isn't really geared towards accepting women in positions of power in general.
Jai Hind, everybody. First of all, I would like to say thanks, and it's a great honor to share a stage with ma'am here. Talking about challenges that I joined. When I joined in year 2006, and in Army, I'm commissioned in Corps of Army Air Defence. So we started having women officers in Corps of Army Air Defence in the year 2004. So I was the first woman officer in my unit when I got commissioned. So when I joined, I think there were apprehensions in both the fronts, in the men also and to me also, I realized. But then I think once they know that you are capable of doing it, they ultimately recognize you, and then when you put that lens of gender to a side, it becomes so smooth. It becomes a home, and my unit since then has been a first home, rather saying that it is second home. It has been the first home for me. So challenges, if I'll say that challenges are not there, I would be wrong. Challenges do exist. They are sometimes in terms of, physical standards, or when you are, you have to maintain the professional and personal fronts. But then I think, I believe rather, that Army bakes up the genes in you to take on challenges, be it the battlefield or in any facet of life.
For anyone watching right now, any woman watching right now, any young girls watching right now, tell me the most exciting thing that you've done on the job. Let's make this exciting. Why should the women watching right now want to join the armed forces? What is the one thing you think civilian life you would have never been able to do, but the armed forces helped you do?
Okay, the greatest reward I think I have got after joining armed forces is the trust your men shows in your leadership, irrespective of the gender you have. So in Ops Sindoor, my unit was deployed, and I have seen men achieving, their morale was just extraordinary, and it was a different experience that I am not even able to share it with in words. To express it into words is very difficult. But I think that is the biggest reward that I have got after joining army. And obviously, inspiring younger women is also one of them that one can achieve while donning the uniform.
Being a professional, my one incentive would be here, to have extreme professional satisfaction, which I've had. My high would be every time a patient gets well is a high for me. There are so many occasions that the Armed Forces has given me to feel a high for. I got to command the unit. I did my internship. I got to command the unit that I studied in, the Armed Forces Medical College. I got an education. I got a super specialty. I got to train in Gamma knife. I got this wonderful Armed Forces family around me. I am trained. I have experience. I've become a leader. I'm the senior most woman leader of the Armed Forces Medical Services. So, ladies out there, please come and join the Indian Armed Forces. It's an excellent profession.
To join the Indian Armed Forces, you've got the reason right here. Thank you very much for having joined us and shared your experiences. A huge round of applause.
Our next discussion, Dronacharya, the evolution of drone warfare, will explore how India is at this moment harnessing this fantastic technology, from swamp systems to indigenous innovations to secure its skies and battlefields. And to steer this high-tech conversation, let me also call my colleagues Vishnu Shom and Ayush Arawadi.
Let me take it across to Samir first. He's a war veteran besides anything else. Flew a bunch of fighter aircraft in the Indian Air Force. His new love is drones. I've always told him a Mirage 2000 is much better looking than the drones that he manufactures. But be that as it may, you were one of those on the front line. How did you see the drone battle evolve in Op Sindoor?
Yeah, Vishnu, thanks for reminding me that I'm a pilot. I was a pilot, now I'm an autopilot. So from a pilot to an autopilot journey has been great. But what is very relevant is the next phase of warfare is going to embody a lot of, manned plus unmanned teamings. And what we already saw was a big glimpse of drone warfare in the present Operation Sindoor. A lot of companies were called right down to the last mile by the end users, the Air Force, Army, etc., etc. And some of them actually were able to provide a bit of support in the short duration of 2 to 3 days. But what is very relevant and which came out strongly is that a lot of estimation and the way people imagine drone warfare is going to take place, those stereotypes were broken. That drones are here to stay. Drone is the next evolution of warfare. It is the next pillar standing with your legacy manned platforms. And the earlier we kind of embrace them, the earlier we learn to kind of operate them in a manner which can support your mission needs, that is something which is going to convert into a lot of applications as well as results in the battlefield.
While we're talking about adapting to the fast pace of how technology advances, there's also countermeasures that need to be considered, and also how that whole process adapts as well. Could you really chime in and tell us how crucial that is for even Rahul and company to really incorporate that in their product development?
Sure. So firstly, thank you NDTV and all of you to have me over. When we talk about drone warfare, we usually end up talking only about the drone. And then we miss out the main part that when we are using drones as a weapon, it's going to be used against us as a weapon as well. So when we are talking about that, we need to have enough measures to defend ourselves against a drone attack as well. And that particular technology, when I have to bundle it together, it's a very complex one. First, you need to detect the drone. Then you need to identify and recognize that drone, whether it's a drone or it's a bird, and then apply all your algorithms and then implement countermeasures. Now this whole scenario becomes very, very complex when it comes to war-like situation. You're not knowing what to expect. what frequency the drone is going to operate at, what anti-jamming technologies that the drone is adapted with. So all of these, you need to be, again, like he said, 90 days, yes, obsolescence in technology revolution is something which is happening not only in the drone space, but even on the countermeasures.
Mr. Agarwal, you've focused a great deal on wireless engineering solutions. In the battle between wireless technologies and wired technologies in the drone space, who's winning?
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you, Ayush. Thank you, NDTV. So I'll just put it in perspective that the major difference in wireless and wired, in terms of India, we have a lot of mountainous terrain. So fiber technology, fiber-based drone communication wouldn't really be very helpful in India. Only about 10% or maybe 20% of drones could be used in deserts or areas where we do not have obstruction. But areas where we have, most of the areas we have a lot of obstruction. Wireless is probably the only option. Wireless is now becoming there's a lot of advancement that has happened over the decade. The previous communication platforms used to have very low data bandwidth. So your video streaming was a challenge. This is not the time now for the defense forces to anymore use these kind of stuff, because we have very, very advanced radio technologies that have been time tested, even in India. Like the biggest threat is EW. Like we are using our EW to counter adversaries, drones, and all the unmanned platforms. They are also using the same. We cannot say that Pakistan has an inferior technology just because they deal with China and Turkey. They equally have technology coming from US, they have technology coming from the other developed nations. So they also have good EW systems that can counter us. So we need to be progressive enough to ensure that our communication is undetected most of the times. Yes, you cannot 100% guarantee, but most of the times it should be undetected,
Right,
and not jammable.
Let me ask you, sir, a little bit about naval warfare, because the drone scenario when it comes to naval operations has transformed the face of naval operations. We've seen any number of Russian ships sunk by the Ukrainians using, relatively inexpensive drones. How worried do we need to be in the maritime drone space, and are we adequately protected?
Drone involvement into naval warfare is pretty complex, for the fact that the conditions are completely different. We're looking at extreme amount of wind. We're looking at corrosion. We're looking at very, very different kind of tech preparedness when it comes to drone technologies and building a drone for naval warfare. There is an evolution of the domestic industry which is happening, and I think in a very, very short time we should be right there where we require us to be. Basically.
Mr. Agarwal, there have been so many reports in the past on how Indian drones have Chinese components, whether on occasion it's engines or other parts. Is that a fact? And that at one level would be fairly unacceptable for our defense services. That being the case, are we looking to replace some of that technology with Indian systems?
It's not about Chinese components just. So there are certain dilutions given from project to project in terms of Chinese components. The bigger problem is the shadow that comes in the front, where good big players invested huge amount of money in development and then competing with actually a product selling under Making in India actually is Chinese. So rather the problem is not those one single, maybe some small component with China, because China is a part of the ecosystem now, global ecosystem. Paras Defense will very specifically point it out that anti-jamming system actually picks up the signatures. Every product in a drone has a signature. A motor has a signature, a battery has a signature, an RF has a signature. every subsystem of a drone has a signature. So it has to be that national interest in the industry to adapt to national interest. I mean, we should not compromise as an industry to components that has signature and might be prone to jamming or detection. That's the most key important point.
Just to get an understanding from everyone on the panel, how much, especially in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, how much is AI and machine learning, some of this disruptive tech, being used in modern warfare? Rahul, you'd like to take that?
Yeah, so...
and if it is, just to flip that argument, what are the pros and cons? There are downsides as well and concerns.
Yeah, so the most popular picture of AI is ChatGPT, right? That's what people relate to when you talk about AI, maybe something which is conversational assistant. But AI can be implemented in such transformational areas, and AI in robotics is something which is transforming the way robotics is built grounds up. It is possibly substituting certain knowledge gaps. So when people say software engineers are being replaced by AI assistants, a lot of core physics-based development is also getting assisted by AI strategies of robotics development. Drones in various sectors are at various phases of maturity of autonomy. Some are at level 3, some are at level 4, and some are at level 5, but are they independent enough to not have a man in the loop? It's a judgment that the user has to take in terms of the decision which has to be taken.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
A big round of applause.
Closing session, Lessons from the Past, brings together India's former service chiefs to reflect on challenges faced, victories achieved, and the wisdom that can help shape India's defense preparedness for the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our esteemed panelists for this final conversation of the NDTV Summit 2025.
Thank you, everyone. And I think everyone is looking forward to this particular session. So when we are talking about learning from history, let's first delve into recent history. And I want to start with you, Admiral Arun Prakash. When you look at Operation Sindoor, what is the one thing which you think was a complete success? It was tactical brilliance. And one thing which you think you would have want done better? What is a lesson that we can take away from Operation Sindoor and do better next time?
Well, thank you for that question. To start with, Operation Sindoor itself was a great learning lesson for all of us. I mean, the last major war that we fought was in 1971. So between 71 and 2025, there has been at least 2 quantum jumps in terms of technology. Battlefield transparency, networking, the range of sensors, the range of weapons, etc. So there's been a huge jump. So Operation Sindoor was itself a learning lesson for the armed forces. So at this moment, people like you, television anchors, possibly know more about what happened in Operation Sindoor than laymen like us. So until the full picture comes out and we know what happened on both sides, I'm sure the armed forces have done their debriefs, etc., and they draw the right lessons. But for outsiders at this moment, it's difficult to prognosticate how to do things better, because I think things went off very well in this particular operation.
General Pandey, if there's one thing that had everyone concerned, is when it emerged that China had played a role. Both Pakistan and China were acting together, especially when it came to intelligence, the giving of drones, the operation of drones. What can we do better next time, especially in dealing with China, considering that Operation Sindoor is underway?
Well, I think one of the important lessons for us was as to how, so far we used to say that, look, China would assist Pakistan during, operation, during conflict scenario, etc., etc. But I think this time it came out loud and clear that it is more like they are conjoined. So it's not only just, it's more than maybe supply of equipment, weapon system, etc. You saw them operate together. their SOPs, their methods of operation. So this is, I think, something which we will have to factor as we go forward and maybe study more in depth to figure out as to what would this mean, right? So it is no longer a two-front. It is you have one adversary, but you have both of them together. So this is, I feel, across all domains, in the ground domain, in the air domain, as also in the maritime, less so. But this is something which we will have to study in great detail, I feel.
Marshal Chaudhari, what would be your biggest takeaway from Operation Sindoor? Since we are talking about learning from our past, what is it that we should keep in mind going forward now?
I think this is very straightforward. And the answer is that air power need not ever be escalatory. This operation has busted the myth that use of only air power for offensive action will escalate the conflict. Okay, this myth has been busted by this. We can definitely control the use of air power, use it for gaining the strategic objectives, use it for pinpoint accuracy, use it to create effects that will change the balance of equation between nations.
Admiral Prakash, what do you think the Navy's role was this time around?
Navy, as you know, is traditionally known as the silent service. So both the fleets, the eastern and western fleets, had positioned themselves off the coast of Pakistan. The coast of Pakistan is limited relatively, it's 1,000 kilometers, with just 2 or 3 major ports, Karachi, Port Qasim. And Pakistan is notionally a landlocked country. Much of their, or most of their trade, energy, etc. comes from the sea. So by positioning itself off the Pakistani coast, the Indian Navy had sent some very strong signals that if things come to a pass where we need to go into action, we will blockade Pakistan, cut off all trade, and that actually happened. Not many ships went in and out of. And secondly, if the government had decided on kinetic action from the seawards, then the Navy had a similar capability.
Did you see the kind of coordination that you were hoping? In the operation, did you see all the forces working together with the kind of coordination that you would have liked?
Absolutely. What we witnessed was complete synergy, complete understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the effort, what came out finally was a joint effort from all the 3 services and of course the higher defense organization of this country. So there is no doubt in my mind at least that there was any lack of coordination or synergy between the armed forces.
Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you very much for sharing your views.